Rules Committee, you want this?
Next one here.
Yeah, that's the next one. February 26, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting, October 24th, 2017? Motion made by Supervisor McDevitt, seconded by Supervisor Sokol. All in favor say aye. Is any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes approved, unanimous, appears. Action items, number one, proposed resolution provided by Supervisor Strau, opposition to taxable New York State-owned land, conversion to pilots. Terry Ross was going to be here, but she was called out, was not able to make it. But I believe Matt Simpson can speak to the matter, and it's the first item, and there is a draft resolution. There is also another resolution that, Matt has submitted to me that came from the Adirondack Association of Towns and Villages. But Matt, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. This proposal was taking, a lot of our towns in Warren County have state land in them, and they're assessed right now by our assessors at the full value, whatever that number may be. Then those assessments are reviewed by the state, and then they're agreed with or they're challenged. Usually we don't pay anything more than what the state will pay us. And under this plan, they would negotiate a pilot agreement for those properties and cap it at a 2% max or change in allowable levy growth factor. So this could result in a loss to the revenue that's generated that's being paid by the state to the towns, which is something that would be very detrimental to our town. There's towns in the Adirondacks that have over 90% state land. I think the town of Arietta is about 97%. Town of Wells is 91%. Town of Horkin is 25% state land. And all we really feel is important that we're fairly compensated by the state so that the burden isn't put onto the rest of the taxpayers to pay for this shortfall.
Okay, discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not, and I'm not sure if you guys know or not, but just a point of clarity. As we negotiate with the state every year in terms of the taxes they pay or their assessed value, what's the increases been year over year? Has it been 2%? Has it been more?
I know Fred Monroe was quoted as his town went up significantly over well over 2% per year. And a lot of municipalities, they do go up over 2% a year. There's some years that are probably less than the 2%. But what this could lead to, another detrimental effect or potential, is that these could be negotiated even away.
The pilot could be negotiated away.
Tax payments in entirety over time. You don't know, that's a possibility. There's no giving when you negotiate a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
But that shortfall, so what happens if you lose, 1% on the state lands, that 1% has to be picked up by the rest of the taxpayers.
Right.
And that's unfair. You can't build on it, you can walk on it, hike it.
Yeah, Supervisor Leggett.
Chairman, at the Local Government Review Board, David Wolf gave that presentation where right now across the board, state land is assessed on a wide range. So that is already a flawed system, and to do anything else built on flawed valuations doesn't help the situation at all.
with a 2% tax cap, that's another real issue. Last year, we were allowed to raise approximately $12,000 in taxes without going over the cap, which we have stayed under the cap every year. So you can see every dollar is very meaningful to these small towns.
Just a general statement. Any time you move from local control, decisions that are as close to the people as possible, you move them down to Albany so that somebody else can make those decisions, then I think we're in trouble. Okay, so again, I just kind of keep it the way it is, and it seems like the local folks can do a pretty good job, determining our future.
Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. From my perspective, it's about the state land being available to all of the state, and that all of the state should pay its fair share of the taxes. It shouldn't fall only to those municipalities where the land happens to be located.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, Lexi did a comparison. She used a 2017 growth factor, because 2018 is not established yet. And she gave us a spreadsheet, which basically projected taxes show what would have been for 2018 if the pilot was in place. And as you can see, many of the towns and schools would have taken a negative impact, as well as Warren County.
Sorry, John, what page?
I don't know if you got the two Warren County supervisors.
Oh.
Must have gotten this at one time. In any event, it has the spreadsheet, and the red at the end says minus 97,389.44 cents. So, yeah, everyone, just about everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, could potentially take a hit with the pilot program. Any further discussion amongst the committee? Anybody from the floor like to discuss this topic? Seeing none, is there a motion in accord with the potential resolution that is attachment 1? Motion made by Supervisor McDevitt, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any further discussion? Supervisor Leggett, you...
Found it?
Okay. All those in favor of the draft resolution titled Opposition to Taxable New York State-Owned Land Conversion to Pilots, say aye.
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 Appears to be unanimous. Let's move forward. Number 2 and number 3 were both submitted by the Lake George Chamber of Commerce and CVB. Resolution number 1 of 2018 was a resolution to oppose the proposed New York State Department of Labor call-in pay proposed regulations, revising the call-in pay requirements of the minimum wage order for miscellaneous industries and occupations, 12 NYCRR Part 142 at subsections 142, 2.3, and 3.3. Okay, if you read through their proposed resolution, I think you came to the same conclusion as I did. What the heck are they talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad I wasn't alone.
And there's no one here to...
And there doesn't appear to be anyone here to explain it. So I went and downloaded Part 142 of the Department of Labor, which was amended October 6, 2017, and it references to 142 subsection 2.3 and 3.3, and they both say the same thing. I will read them to you. 142 2.3 call-in pay is the title. and it's a short sentence, I'm going to read it to you. An employee who by request or permission of the employer reports for work on any day shall be paid for at least 4 hours, or the number of hours in a regularly scheduled shift, whichever is less, at the basic minimum hourly wage. Well, that's what's on the books, so I'm not sure what they're opposing because I'm not sure what's being proposed. And I wish there was somebody here from the Lake Shore Chamber of Commerce and the CBB to speak to it. But, anybody?
Maybe they're proposing to enforce it.
I'm not sure. And if you read through the resolution, it does not make clear what exactly they're opposing. Mike, you have some thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, is it really part of the county's domain to be getting involved in something like this matter that's supporting a few businesses and not the county as a whole?
I'm not sure exactly what is supporting or opposing. Supervisor Weil, I am
My
confused.
sense is that they're
really-
opposed to the fact that they may have to pay their employees more money, is what I'm assuming.
Yes, Supervisor Bramer?
I think there could be a role for us, but I'm not comfortable trying to make that statement, from a county-wide committee on this or the next one,
Yeah.
especially if there's no one here to help us.
Supervisor
understand.
Sokol?
Supervisor Stroud, thank you. I realize Fred is not here, and he's the one who wrote this, as well as the next request. I have a cell phone, I could give him a call, we could put him on speakerphone if that's your choice, but, I mean, if we're looking for somebody to explain this, he's the one that wrote it.
Well, you might or might not get a hold of them. How's the committee feel?
What, can we delay it until our next meeting and we can come in
Yeah.
and talk about it?
Yeah, that's
I'll
used,
give him a call and tell him to...
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
this and the next one? Because the next one I tried to do a little homework on too, and
Well, the tip credit basically is, through restaurants, there's a minimum wage that servers are paid. The tip credit basically allows them to jump up to the state is proposing for the next 5 years that there's slow increases until you get up to the $15 an hour.
yeah.
So, right now, that tip credit, there's a certain pay for servers and then a certain pay for bartenders, so they vary. The bartenders get a higher fee than the servers do because their servers are supposed to be making more tips. Well, that tip credit is an adjustment to bring them up to where the bartenders are. So, it's a payroll nightmare, to tell you the truth. But these two items probably, I mean, if Fred is making a request for these, he should show up. And I know we don't meet for legislative and rules every month, but
Well, we can. It's
But we-
just that, if we don't have anything for the agenda, we don't. But if we've got these two things, we can ask Brad, we can meet next month.
yeah.
The only thing that I found on this topic is Governor Cuomo unveils his fifth proposal. And I still don't fully understand it, but he speaks to these type of workers are more susceptible to exploitation because they rely on tips. Workers in states that require the full minimum wage be paid to tipped employees experience half the rate of sexual harassment compared to workers in states that pay lower wages to tip. It eliminates the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. It creates a safer and more equitable workplace. And New York State Department of Labor will be holding public hearings to solicit input. What's interesting is the ones that appear to be most affected by this, according to this article, according to the way I'm reading this article, are the car wash guys. I didn't even know you're supposed to tip them. Now I feel bad about this.
John.
I didn't either. So it includes that group too. And it includes other groups, not just the waiters and the bartenders, and I'm not, you know, in some places, these people are only getting paid $3 an hour. So they're saying their tips, in the case of the car wash, with me bringing my car through, they're certainly not making 15 an hour. Not if everyone's like me. I just didn't know the car wash guys depended on tips. Maybe they do in places, but...
Different parts of the country. I've seen tips commonly accepted in Connecticut, Jersey, you know, around here.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and then they have a chart of the general minimum wages, and the timetable for those minimum wages, and the places in New York State where those minimum wages would prevail, because they are different based on different regions. Yeah. So, what do you think about the third item from the Lake George Chamber of Commerce? We'll put both those items on for next month, and see if Fred Vogel can come and speak to those.
I'll give him a call. You want to give me a date, and then,
Is there anything we have to do to table them to the...
You can
put him on pending.
you can put 'em on pending.
Yeah, all right, let's put them on pending then. Okay, both items, is that okay with the committee?
Yes.
It appears to be unanimous. All right, fourth item. The fourth item is a resolution calling for Governor Cuomo to delay the pistol permit deadline. I went online, it took me 5 minutes. I mean, okay, but fine, if people are just saying, I don't have 5 minutes to do that. But let's, yeah, Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. Could you tell us where this request came from to be added to our agenda? Was it was it Niagara Legislature, or who?
Yeah, well, I got a resolution from Niagara County Legislature, and they're going around to all the counties, seeing if they'll consider this. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I just wondered why.
Yeah,
Well,
I-
like a year and a half, right?
Well, I mean, it takes 5 minutes to do it. But Supervisor Leggett?
I guess people didn't know that it was coming up, but who failed to recertify their license by January 31st, 2018.
Right.
It's already
Mm.
after the fact here.
Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. I am not inclined to pass this. I mean, first of all, the deadline is already passed. And if our constituents are not bringing this to us, then I think...
I think the biggest thing is it's a meaningless resolution based on the deadline's passed. I mean, it's over. If we had gotten this 6 months ago, then of course maybe we would agree with it, but the deadline's gone.
Okay. Is that the way the committee feels?
Again,
Yeah.
nobody in my community's come up and said, this is a problem.
No, and I understand that even if you do re-register late, that the world isn't going to fall apart. That's the way I understand it. Supervisor McGowan?
You know, it's a responsibility. It's just like renewing your license and everything else. I mean, unfortunately, you do get a thing in the mail that reminds you on your license or your registration, but I mean, how many of you slipped on your inspections, all right? So, because you don't really get a reminder of that, and then now that they've gone to a 2-year, it gets a little confusing. But you do have a certain responsibility, and it wasn't like it hasn't been advertised that this is what you have to do. And like it's announced to the after fact, you know, and it's, I just find it ridiculous.
Okay, it looks like the committee is not in favor of doing any action whatsoever on this proposal. So, okay. Let's move on to item 5. What?
Is it just stay on there, or? No, because it's the consensus of the community that they don't want to take any action, so.
declared to be unanimous. All right, the action item number 5. All right, we do have somebody to speak to this. Dr. Seeley.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation today to talk a little bit about County Law 224. I have some written materials I can pass out here.
Thank you.
So Cornell Cooperative Extension Administration has asked every county association to seek... You want one more? Oh, I have one more. To seek their county government to support a resolution to increase State 224 funding. Last week, Amanda sent me the Schoharie County resolution, and that prompted me. She asked me to come today to discuss it. So far, there's about 40 counties who've signed on to this resolution throughout the state. There's an extension office in every county, pretty much, to increase the state's contribution. So that what I have in front of you today first is a resolution for the consideration of Warren County officials on County Law 224. What that does is 224 authorizes government appropriations for Cornell Cooperative Education programs. Warren County has been very supportive for our programs over the years. But the state allocation has been stagnant for almost 20 years. So if you look at the next page, we discuss a little bit why this funding is needed. These programs obviously enhance people's lives and well-being. They are based on the emerging needs of our local constituents, our local people. Every county extension program is a little different. New York State Legislature amended County Law 224 in 2016 to allow additional state allocations to CCE in a percentage proportionate to the county funding. This year's state 224 funding is about 10% of our budget. It's about $59,000. The next page is a graph, and on that graph it will show you the 224 funding from New York State for the last 20 years. As you can see, since 2000 the line is flat, thus the state allocation has not increased. We feel it's time the state appropriate their fair share to support these programs. And on the last page, it shows a little bit about the impact of Cornell Cooperative Extension has had, especially in Warren County. All of my cohort, all of my directors in the New York State are meeting with our state legislators in Albany on March 5th. Dan Steck has already signed a letter to support, and I'm awaiting one from Betty Little as well. My hope is that this committee will consider approving this resolution or passing it on to the full board in March. I can tell you right now it's not in the governor's budget, and we do have some legislators who are passing some letters of support to see if it might get added in at some juncture. Understanding it's probably not a great year as far as the state budget goes and asking for money, but nonetheless, our programs are growing and expanding. We're in the schools. We're in a lot of schools now with our programs. We go to the camps with our programs. We just don't have enough staff. And this money would go directly towards programming and staff if we were to receive it at some point. So I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Seeley. Yes, Supervisor McDivitt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have maybe a statement. I have never heard anyone ever say anything bad about Cornell Cooperative. I mean, that's a pretty reasonable thing to be able to say. Okay. Many years ago, I took a Master Gardener's course, actually in Saratoga County, down in Boston Stop or whatever, just because of timing or scheduling or something. And I'm so impressed with the wealth of just quality information. And I can remember, to this day, I can remember the beekeeper, this gentleman who was 75 years old, came in and, khaki type outfit, and what wonderful information he dispensed in terms of what bees do worldwide, responsible for a third of the world's food population.
Amazing, yeah.
And it's just so I endorse this highly, and they're involved in a great organization.
Yes, I concur with Supervisor McDivitt. Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. Yes, I absolutely agree with Supervisor McDivitt, but I think you also hit the nail on the head. This is going to be a very difficult year. The state budget is very, very tight, and with everything filtering down from the federal government cuts, it's just going to be really hard. I don't know if we ask for another $4 million for this program, what that takes away from any of our other state programs that are really important as well. But I don't mind supporting the resolution. Maybe you'll get a small bump. I mean, having your funding be stagnant for so long is really kind of bad.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Supervisor McGowan?
No, do you remember Kevin Ungerman?
Mayor.
He was really in the Apple Corps. He actually rented offers, but he was with the Cornell Extension in the Apple, and he was one of the ones that was very involved with the new Honeycrisp.
Yes.
Very interesting man. He happened to rent office for like 18 years, and but he was in there, and it's really it's a wonderful program. I agree with both supervisors here, and really with the state funding as tight as it is, but I'm in support.
Supervisor Wild?
I'm absolutely in support. Thank you.
Okay, I thought you had your hand up.
Oh, I did not.
All right, motion made by Supervisor Sokol to, there's a,
I just wanted to comment, I agree with everything that was said. We should go for it, because in the history of mankind, there's never been a year where management or government said, hey, this is a good year to have a parade.
all right, thank you Supervisor Loeb. Motion made by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by
I second.
Supervisor Bramer. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution to increase state support for Cornell Cooperative Extension, say aye.
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. The motion passes. We go on to two discussion items.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Seeler.
See you tonight.
Two discussions. One is on the Warren County FOIL policy, and I think it was Supervisor Bramer that wanted me to bring this forward as an agenda item for discussion today. So would you like to elaborate?
Sure, thanks. I have been made aware of a bunch of different times when our public people are having a hard time getting FOIL responses back, and I think that it's part of the problem is our current policy, which thank you very much for putting that in the packet, talks about, whoever did that, talks about that we have all these different, all of our department heads are basically FOIL officers, and in other counties and towns, primarily in the towns, it's the clerk. It's the town clerk is the single FOIL officer. And in other counties, it's their county clerk. Either like Pam, or an administrator, or another individual, like the clerk of the board, who receives all of these requests and then distributes them out to the department heads to answer as appropriate. Then they get the answers back, and then they respond to the person. So that it's all funneled accordingly through one person, and it's in I think a more organized fashion, whereas here the person sends in a thing through the website, you don't know who it's going to, somebody answers it, sometimes it's the clerk of the board, sometimes it's Mary, sometimes it's like whoever, and I think it's causing problems for our public. And I'm sure Mr. Whitehead could speak to this issue, and I know it's not just Travis. There are other people that have come to me and said that they've had a hard time.
So you're suggesting that we consider having a FOIL officer, centralized FOIL officer, and then it would be that individual's responsibility to get to the appropriate department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable to me. Supervisor McDivitt? All right. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
No, I agree
Yeah.
with Claudia. Oils are a function of the world we live in, and reasonably timely responses to foils are, life's difficult. I know there are, a certain unnamed person up in the North Country that, she foils a significant amount of time, and she can literally drive our attorney crazy, okay?
Yeah.
I understand the frustration, and I understand from Mary's perspective, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, you make an honest effort to meet that deadline. It may be close to the deadline, but I think you make that effort, and we have to, okay? So.
Well,
Yes.
My name's getting thrown out of the
Joanne, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain the process through the website. All the website FOIL messages come to the county administrator's office. Then they get sent out to the department, wherever it relates to. They are centralized, the web messages. If someone gets an email, I don't know where people send the emails, but they may send it to the department or whatever. And we can actually, if you do centralize it, I would suggest the county administrator would be the FOIL officer.
Mary?
I just want to say on record, there are no FOIL requests or appeals or anything in my office that I have not responded to at this point. I hear my name getting thrown out a lot. I have responded to everything, and I don't even think that I take the full time to do so unless I have to search for documents. So I don't know if there are other departments that there are issues with, but I have responded to everything.
So, and you're suggesting that maybe the county administrator might be the central office that all FOILs go to
Yes, right now, any message that comes through the website goes to the county administrator's office, so it only makes sense that anything would be funneled through there. The department is actually responsible to answer the FOIL request, but they do come into the centralized administrator, because the administrator is pretty much the person that knows what each department does.
yeah, and what I'm suggesting is taking some of that burden off of Mary, because then she could just hand the document off to the county administrator, and they spend the time writing up the email or whatever to give the document to the requester. The other point that I want to make is that I think we do a good job getting documents on the web, but if we put more out there, I mean, under FOIL, everything is available to the public. Everything. Every single document. This is county money. These are county documents, everything. So the more that we can put on the web, the less we have to deal with FOIL requests. The FOIL exemptions are all permissive. We may withhold things if they fall within the certain strict guidelines of the exemptions, but we don't have to. If we have some litigation document and we want to give it to the public, we are certainly enabled to do that. There's nothing in FOIL that says we must keep it withheld. We may withhold it if it falls within the strict guidelines of the exemptions. So for me, the more we can put out to the public and let them see it, and it's out there available to them readily, the less we have to deal with them sending FOIL requests. I mean, it does take up server space, I guess, but...
Supervisor Driscoll?
Joanne, do requests have to be electronically submitted?
No,
They don't?
it will come through the mail, email.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to make a comment. I was at the county association, New York State County Association, and they had a session on open government and FOIL, which I happened to attend, and it was enlightening. But one of the comments that struck with me, and I wrote down, is that everything is open unless someone or something is harmed. So, in regards to Supervisor Bramer's comment about putting everything out there on the web that we can, it kind of follows that guideline. We should be out, putting as much out as we can, and making sure that we respond as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Supervisor Wells. Supervisor McDevitt?
Yeah, can I make an unusual request? I would like representative from the Post-Star as well as Travis make a comment, or would you?
No, we can find places.
Okay. Okay, so you're comfortable with it?
I haven't had any problems with Mary.
and some different things, then your only alternative is to go to court, which becomes suspension and drags things out. And the drags things out part is, largely part of the problem, because getting information in a timely fashion is what is needed in a lot of these cases. And, I have some things going on right now, with, not being able to get an engineering report, and that was only because it's the second time it happened, that, in a timely fashion. And the only opportunity is to go to court. That's not the way it should be.
Supervisor Wow.
Yeah, it's just a question about if there is a dispute on the type of information that's received, who addresses that? And my sense is maybe it should come to the committee. But I'm just curious. Does anybody know who addresses it when we have a conflict like Travis is talking about? I wanted this information, it doesn't happen. Who makes the decision about whether we do it or not?
Supervisor Bramer, you have the answer to this?
Yeah, I want to say too, just to Travis's comment, keep in mind what happened with the city of Glens Falls when they did not properly give the documents and they were sued. They had to pay attorney's fees. So this could become very costly for us if we don't do it right. I think our chairman is the appeals officer under our policy. So if someone doesn't get what they think they should, they appeal to the chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, and then he makes the final determination. If he says, no, you can't have it, their only recourse is to sue. And then they can get attorney's fees if the chairman was wrong.
Just for the new supervisor, the case in point was a matter which was openly requested and openly discussed with the board in committee throughout the entire process. It's very well known to all board members that that information would be distributed at a certain point in time when we received it. It's a little different than some of the appeals that I get. I don't get very many, frankly, which is a good thing. But that particular appeal was part of the negotiating process that we were involved in. That specifically decided those documents specifically decided. And that's important because we have other negotiations that we do with unions, for example. We have working papers with unions, things like that, that are out. But many other contractual matters that we're involved in. But I would agree with the Jeffrey thesis. The point that was made, I think, our philosophy going forward has always been that if we have it, all can get it, and it should be the least significant. And it's not the least. We have a reason for it, either in terms of when or whether we do it or not. Sometimes it deals with personnel-specific personnel situation. They have records of people, medical information, all kinds of information. But I think, I don't want to see the appeals, but the material that I have encountered, I think that our departments do make sure that Joanne's correct. She says that right now we function with a FOIL officer, if you will. I would suggest if anyone's got an idea of a suggestion for the town administrator,
Yes.
Well, under our policy right now, the designated records access officers shall be the custodian of the records. So it lists out all these different things. I'm not saying, I do agree that each of these county department heads have a responsibility to assist the county administrator in responding, but there should be a single FOIL officer who receives the request, acknowledges receipt within the 5 days, and then they go out and make sure all the department heads are giving them the information, and then that person is the one that responds to the requester. It shouldn't be all these different people have separate FOIL officer functions.
So one suggestion has been to make the county administrator's office the chief FOIL officer,
Yes.
and that they will distribute from there. You want to work on some language in the FOIL law to accommodate that?
Sure.
And then you bring it back to this board and
Sure, we're going to meet again.
see. Any other thoughts, suggestions from any of the committee people? Yes, Travis?
Well,
take Mike's suggestion a step further. If an appeal is denied, if it gets to that point, and as Chairman said, it doesn't happen very often, but if it got to the point where an appeal was denied, it would be nice if some committee would advise the chairman as to what's going on. In this particular case, I would have described it differently than Hanover just described it. The FOIL law is very clear that you do have a right to keep certain information, intra-agency information, private, etc. But in this case, you have to disclose everything that is factual. This is an engineering report. A great deal of it, hopefully, is factual. It could have been redacted to a point, but they didn't even go through the trouble trying to redact it. I mean, so these are the things I think that a committee could look at what the opinion of Mr. Freeman was, who administers at the state level. It was clear to say it doesn't matter whether it's mentioned as draft or anything. It doesn't matter what it says. It's what the content is. And if there's factual information in there, it needs to be released. And that wasn't done. And that was the basis for my lawsuit, and it's the basis for my appeal. So it would save a lot of trouble, I think, if the committee would get involved once in a blue moon when those things happen.
Well, currently, the appeal process on the county level is to the chairman. I mean, on the town level, the town clerk is the chief FOIL officer. Appeals then go to the town supervisor. So currently, the appeal would go to the chairman of the board, supervisor. Yes, Chairman Conover?
Just a picture of field that the way that's speaking to was in fact brought to the entire board. It was a process, we were advised in that process by no fewer than 2 attorneys, that were involved in the process of not being allowed that the operating committees made based on the advice of council. Where the board is taking a point of process, we're not able to do it in terms of the process.
Okay. So Supervisor Bramer,
I'll work on.
you're gonna work on some suggestions for our next meeting next month. So we'll table this until next month and have further discussion. Last item is, I think we can make this quick. It's a referral from Personnel and Higher Ed Committee to discuss any revisions we might want to do to local law number 12, 2011. Local law number 12 of 2011 says this: a vacancy in the office of county supervisors in a town other than a town supervisor shall be filled by a majority of the votes of the members of that town board. And for the city, a vacancy in the office of county supervisor in a city ward shall be filled by a majority of vote of the common council. I see nothing wrong with that proposal. I think there were other proposals, but I think that is just fine, so I would suggest we let the law lie as it stands. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will show up for work tomorrow then.
Yeah, you better.
And this, I don't know why this was referred, but,
I don't either.
It's like it's working.
I think we're all comfortable with the way it has been working for a long time.
We have no idea why this was referred?
No, I don't. Okay. Anything else for matter of discussion? So, yes, Supervisor Soltis.
Just a date so I can call Fred and let him know.
Okay, do we have a tentative date?
No.
As soon as you know, we'll
Yeah.
let Fred or...
You will let him know?
Anybody, any privilege of the floor? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn. Forward by Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Here's unanimous. Officially adjourned.
We are not